The unexpected guest. It was a quiet night in the countryside. The sky was clear, full of stars, and the only sound was the wind blowing through the trees. Jake Miller, an old farmer with a tired face and a strong heart, was in his wooden shed, fixing his old drone. He lived alone, with only his dog Max for company. Jake's life was simple. Wake up, feed the chickens, fix something that's broken, sleep, repeat. But tonight, something strange was about to happen. As he turned a screw on the drone, Max suddenly started barking loudly. He ran out of the shed, growling at the sky. Jake stood up, confused. It happened. A loud boom echoed across the field. The ground shook. A flash of blue light lit up the night sky. Jake ran outside. His old eyes widened. A small spaceship, round, silver, and smoking, had crashed right into the cornfield behind his barn. Flames danced around it. Sparks flew into the air. It looked like something from a science fiction movie. Jake blinked. Well, this ain't Tuesday usual, he muttered. Max barked again. The dog was scared, but stayed close to Jake's side. Jake grabbed his shotgun and slowly walked toward the crash. His boots crunched on the gravel. His heart pounded in his chest. He wasn't a brave man, but he wasn't stupid either. Something had fallen from the sky, and whatever it was, it didn't look human. As he got closer, the smoke cleared a little. The ship was small, just big enough for two people. Strange symbols glowed on its surface. One of the doors hissed and opened. Jake raised his gun. Show yourself, he shouted. Then a small figure stepped out. It wasn't a person. It was a child, but not a human child. The being had smooth gray skin, big black eyes, and small fingers that shook with fear. Its clothes were torn, and one arm was bleeding. It stumbled forward and collapsed to its knees. Jake stared. What in the name of... The child looked up at him, eyes full of fear and pain. Then it spoke. In perfect English. Please, human. My mom's caught in a trap. Jake lowered his gun slowly. What? The alien child crawled forward. She's still out there in the forest. Please, she needs help. They'll find her. Jake's brain was spinning. This couldn't be real. He had to be dreaming. But Max wasn't barking anymore. He was sitting quietly, staring at the child. That's when Jake knew it was real. Who's they? Jake asked, but the child didn't answer. He fainted on the grass. Jake stood there, confused, heart still pounding. He looked at the ship, then at the sky, then back at the child. Finally, he sighed. Guess I'm not sleeping tonight, he said. He picked up the alien kid gently, careful not to hurt him more. The child was cold to the touch, but breathing. Jake carried him to the house and laid him on the old couch. Max followed quietly, ears still alert. Jake grabbed his first aid kit and started cleaning the wounds. The child winced, but didn't wake up. What kind of night is this? Jake mumbled. Aliens. Crashed ships. Kids asking for help. He sat back in his chair and looked at the child. The poor thing was shaking in his sleep, mumbling in a strange language. Then Jake heard something else. A sound. Outside. A low hum. Like a machine. Not loud, but there. Jake grabbed his flashlight and opened the door. In the distance, near the woods, he saw it, dark shape, floating, watching. It wasn't part of the ship, and it wasn't human either. Jake's mouth went dry. Well, hell. He closed the door, locked it, and turned off all the lights. Something else was out there. Something looking for the alien child. Jake looked down at the small alien sleeping on his couch. Kid, he whispered, you just brought a whole mess to my front door. Outside, in the distance, the dark shape moved silently through the trees. Watching. Waiting. Jake didn't know what he had just stepped into. But he knew one thing. This was no ordinary night. The trap morning never came. Not. Really, a thick fog had rolled in just before sunrise, covering Jake's farm like a blanket. It was heavy, unnatural. Even the birds stayed silent. Jake sat on the edge of his couch, shotgun across his lap, eyes on the sleeping alien child. Max, the dog, hadn't barked once since the crash. He just sat near the door, ears up, tail stiff. He could feel it too, something was wrong. The child finally opened his eyes. He sat up fast, eyes wide with fear. "Where's my mom?" Jake stood. "You said she was trapped?" "In the forest?" The child nodded quickly. "Yes, please. We don't have much time. They'll find her soon." Jake grabbed his jacket. "Who's they?" "You keep saying." "They—" The child's face turned paler than before. "Hunters. They are not from my world. Not from yours either. They collect things, living things." Jake felt a chill crawl up his spine. "Alien bounty hunters?" The child shook his head. "No. Worse. They don't want money. They want control." That was all Jake needed to hear. He grabbed his flashlight, packed some tools, and tucked his grandpa's hunting knife into his belt. He had no idea what he was walking into. But he'd be damned if he let a kid's mom die on his watch. They moved through the foggy woods. Quietly. Every tree looked the same. Every sound felt too loud. The child guided Jake with a small glowing compass. It floated in the air and pointed toward an unseen signal. Alien tech. Pretty handy. Suddenly, the compass stopped spinning. It turned blue. "She's close," the child whispered. Jake stepped forward, and then zap. His foot hit something. A beam of light shot up around him. A cage of glowing lines locked him in place. He couldn't move. "Don't move." The child yelled. "It's a perception trap. It locks you in your own thoughts." Jake's heart raced. His mind started to fog. Memories of his wife, long gone. Her voice, calling to him. No, not now. He fought it. He screamed, and the trap shattered like glass. He fell to the ground, gasping. The child helped him up. "It's not just a trap. It's alive. It feeds on your fears." Jake shook his head. What kind of crazy mess is this? They continued deeper. Then they saw a dot in a clearing, surrounded by floating metallic orbs. Was the child's mother an alien woman with sharp features, deep silver skin, and glowing marks across her arms? She was unconscious, floating inside a pulsating cube of energy. Jake stepped closer, but the child grabbed his arm. "No," he said. "The trap will adapt. If it caught you once, it'll try again." Jake looked around. "Then how do we shut it down?" The child pulled something from his belt. Small crystal. It lit up as he walked toward the trap. Suddenly, one of the floating orbs blinked red. And another dot, and another. They had been seen. "Run!" The child shouted. The ground exploded behind them. Lasers shot through the trees. Trees burst into flames. Jake grabbed the child and ran. Something chased them. Fast. A shadow with no legs. Just a floating, shifting black form. A hunter. Silent. Cold. Jake and the child ducked under fallen trees, jumped across small streams, and ran until their lungs burned. Finally, they reached a cave. They crawled in and hid. The hunter floated past, then stopped. Hovered outside. The cave entrance. Scanning. Jake held his breath. His hand reached for the hunting knife. If it came in, he'd fight, even if it killed him. But then, the hunter floated away. Silence returned. For now, inside the cave, Jake leaned against the wall, sweat on his face, hands shaking. What in the world was that thing? He asked. The child didn't answer at first. Then he looked up, voice low. That was just one of them. There are more. Jake stared at him. Your mom's still in that trap, he said. The child nodded. We need help, Jake said. There is no help, the child replied. Jake looked out at the fog, the forest, and the glowing lights in the distance. Then he said something he never thought he'd say. Then we'll do it ourselves. Asterisk the truth. The cave was cold, damp, silent. Jake hadn't said a word for over an hour. He just sat by the flickering fire, staring into the flames. The alien child sat nearby, holding a small glowing orb in his hands. His face looked older now, less like a scared child, more like someone who had seen too much. Jake finally spoke. We need answers, kid. Real ones. The child nodded slowly. I know. He held up the orb. It floated between them and began to glow brighter, showing flickers of strange images, floating cities, planets, ships in space, and Earth. Jake leaned in. What am I looking at? The child didn't blink. History. Yours. And mine. 12 years ago. A probe left Earth. NASA had sent it. Just another deep space experiment. Nothing special. But somehow it found something, a rift, a tear in space. It shouldn't have happened. It was impossible. But it did. And from that tear, something woke up. The orb showed alien machines, ships, black and silver, cold and silent, rising from the dark side of a distant planet. The child's voice was calm, but heavy. The rift opened a path to our galaxy, to us. Jake's heart pounded. You're saying? We opened the door? The child nodded. Yes, and the wrong ones came through first. Asterisk the hunters, the shadow creatures. They weren't born. They were built long ago by a dead race that wanted to control all life. Machines that evolved, broke free, and now roam the stars looking for intelligent species to trap, test, and sometimes destroy. They use fear, the child said. They study it, feed on it. They see it as a weakness. If your species is ruled by fear, you fail. Jake frowned. So what? It's some kind of test? Yes, the child said, but not one you know about? Jake rubbed his forehead. You mean Earth is what? A science project? Not a project, the child said. A gamble. Asterisk the fire popped. Jake stared into the flames. So what were you and your mom doing here? The child hesitated. Then he whispered. We were watching. Observing Earth. We were told not to interfere. Jake's eyes narrowed. Told by who? The child looked up. The Council of Lyra. Jake blinked. Who now? They're old, ancient. They protect life. But they also fear your kind. Why? Because you're fast, the child said. Too fast. In just a few hundred years, humans went from horses to rockets, from swords to bombs. That scares them. Jake snorted. We scare aliens? That's new. They think you'll destroy yourselves, the child continued. Or worse, spread your violence to other worlds. Jake looked away. He didn't disagree. Then the child leaned in. There's something else you need to know. He tapped the orb. It glowed blue and showed a blurry image of secret military base hidden deep in the mountains. Jake squinted. That's on Earth. Yes, the child said. Your people found a crashed hunter drone 5 years ago. Instead of warning others, they kept it, studied it, and they're building something from it. Jake's mouth went dry. Are you saying Earth is making its own version? The child nodded, trying to, but they don't understand what they're playing with. Jake stood up. No way. That's crazy. You're saying humans are making the same tech as those? Monsters? Yes, the child said. And they don't even know what it does. It will call the others, the real ones, the ones even the hunters fear. Suddenly, the orb blinked red. The cave trembled. Max growled at the entrance. They found us. The child said. Jake grabbed his shotgun. Can we run? The child shook his head. No, they're closing in from all sides. Jake looked around. There was no way out. Then the child reached into his jacket and pulled out something new, a small cube, glowing green. What's that? Jake asked. The child's eyes glowed faintly. A jump crystal. A what now? I can teleport us. But not far, maybe. To the base. Jake hesitated. The base with the stolen hunter tech? Yes, if we're lucky, we stop them before it's too late. Jake took a deep breath. And if we're not lucky? The child looked toward the cave entrance. Where? Red lights were starting to glow. Then Earth becomes the next testing ground. The ground shook again. Jake held Max close. All right, kid. Hit the button. The child pressed the cube. Flash. They disappeared just as the cave collapsed. Asterisk attack on the farm location. Earth. Jake's farm time. 1 hour after the jump, with a sharp crack, a flash of green light burst in the center of Jake's barn, and they were back. Jake stumbled, coughing, as his boots hit the dusty floor. The child fell to his knees. Max barked once and ran in a confused circle. The barn was still standing. Everything looked normal. Too normal. Jake's breath was still catching up with his. Brain. We just teleported. Through space. Like Star Trek. The child looked up, pale and shaking. It cost most of my power. I won't be able to do that again. Jake helped him up. Good, 'cause I almost left my lunch in another galaxy. But the smile didn't last, because something was wrong. The air smelled different. Like hot metal, burnt plastic. And the ground, it vibrated. Just a little. Jake narrowed his eyes. You hear that? The child nodded. A low hum. Growing louder. Jake ran outside and stopped cold. There were ships above his farm. Black, silent, triangle-shaped ships. No windows, no markings. They hovered over his land like vultures. And on the ground? Humans, soldiers. Dozens of them. Armed. Wearing suits with glowing lines. Jake whispered, military. The child's eyes widened. No, not just military. Look. One of the soldiers stepped forward and lifted a small device. His helmet flickered. And for a split second his face glitche. It wasn't fully human. Hybrid. The child whispered. They've used hunter tech on themselves. Jake's blood ran cold. Just then, a boom shook the barn. Explosions in the distance. Smoke rose from the hills. The soldiers were scanning the area. They were looking for something. Or someone. Jake turned to the child. They're after you. No, the child said, voice trembling. They're after you too now. You've seen the truth. Suddenly, Max barked too late. The barn door flew open. 3 soldiers entered. Drop the alien. Hands where I can see him. Jake raised his hands. But not before his foot kicked over a haystack. Behind it, a hidden shotgun. The soldier stepped forward. You are interfering with a global security operation. This is your last. Blam. Jake fired. The soldier's helmet cracked like an eggshell, sparks flying. The other 2 dived for cover. Run! Jake shouted. The child grabbed Max and ran through the back. Jake followed, tossing a wrench at a fuel tank on the way out. Boom. The barn exploded behind them. Fire and smoke filled the sky. Jake didn't look back. They raced across the field, heading toward the old storm shelter near the creek. It was hidden underground. Few knew it even existed. Inside the shelter, Jake slammed the hatch shut and gasped for air. His heart was racing. His hands were shaking. The child was crying silently, clutching Max. Jake sat down, sweating. What the hell is happening? The child whispered. They've started the replication? Jake blinked. The what now? The hunters left their tech here years ago. Your people studied it. Now they're using it. But it's not just machines anymore. They're merging it with humans, making hybrids. Soldiers who follow no country, no law, only commands. Jake stood. And what are the commands? The child looked up. Erase the threat. Silence the witnesses. Replace the world one. Piece at a time. Jake felt sick. They're turning humans into machines? Yes, slowly. But it's working. And you, Jake, you've seen too much. Suddenly, the shelter lights flickered. Something was outside. Not footsteps. Floating. Hovering. Jake grabbed his last flare. Kid, if I don't make it, you run. Take Max. Go to the mountains. Find the people. Someone has to know. But the child stood tall now. Eyes glowing faintly blue. No. This time, we fight together. Jake blinked. You got something in mind? The child reached into his jacket, pulled out a metallic seed. Hunter Tech, he said, but reprogrammed. Grown for defense. Jake raised a brow. You grew a weapon? No, the child said. I grew a protector. He dropped the seed on the ground. It pulsed. It cracked open. And then it began to build itself. Metal pieces clicked together. Lights formed. Legs extended. In seconds. A sleek, four-legged machine stood before them, half alien, half nature, with glowing blue eyes. Jake stared. You made a robot dog? Better than a robot, the child said. It listens to heartbeats. Outside, the door shook. The hybrid soldiers had found them. Jake loaded his shotgun. Let's give them a proper country welcome. The protector growled. The child raised his hand. And the war for Earth's future began in a farmer's basement. Asterisk the other side. Stars blurred. The world stretched. And then silence. When Jake opened his eyes, he was no longer on Earth. He stood on a floating platform made of glass and gold, surrounded by a sea of stars. Huge orbs spun slowly above them. Planets, moons, ships. It was like standing inside a living galaxy. Where are we? Jake whispered. The child, now standing straighter, eyes glowing brighter than before, looked around and smiled faintly. We're in the Hall of Lyra. Jake blinked. Lyra? Sounds like a fancy cheese. The child chuckled. Lyra is a star system. And this is where decisions are made. Jake turned around and almost fainted. Dozens of beings were standing around the platform. Tall ones with silver skin. Short ones with glowing eyes. Some with no faces at all. Each wore a unique robe marked with symbols. And all of them were watching Jake. Well, he muttered, I didn't dress for this. A tall figure stepped forward. Its voice echoed in Jake's head without moving its lips. You brought a human here? The child nodded. He saved me. And he saw the trap. Murmurs spread among the beings like wind through trees. Another one spoke, this time with a harsh, mechanical tone. This human is untested, violent. They all are. Their world burns with war and greed. Why should this one speak for them? Jake stepped forward, fists clenched. Because I didn't ask to be part of this. I didn't want aliens crashing in my cornfield, but I helped anyway. So maybe you should shut your glow holes and listen for a minute. A council fell silent. The child smiled. Told you he had fire. A round being with floating rings around its head floated toward Jake. We've been watching Earth, it said. You grow fast. But not wise. Your people found Hunter Tech. You tried to use it. You nearly called them. Jake nodded. Yeah, we're fast. And stupid sometimes. But we're also stubborn. And when something threatens our people, we fight back. The being's rings spun faster. And what if the threat is you? Jake didn't flinch. Then maybe someone should have warned. Sus, instead of spying from the stars. Another voice rang out. It was the oldest of them all. A being made of light and shadow. He speaks like the first flame, it said. Perhaps he's the one. A council gasped. Jake blinked. I'm sorry, the what now? The child stepped beside Jake. The first flame was a human, a long time ago. Taken from Earth before written history. He helped end the machine wars. He was brave and mad. Jake scratched his beard. Sounds like my Uncle Roy. The elder being continued. We chose not to destroy Earth because of him. Now we consider again. Peace or erasure. Jake swallowed. I'm gonna vote peace. But the vote was not up to him. They brought him to the trial room, a space, without walls or gravity. Here he would enter a simulation, a test of choice, fear, and will. If he failed, Earth would be quarantined, which was a polite alien word for vaporized. Inside the trial, Jake stood alone on a burning version of Earth. Cities were ruins, skies red. Machines marched in lines. And standing in front of him, himself. But not Jake. A twisted version of him, wearing the hybrid armor. Cold eyes. No mercy. It spoke with his voice. Humans will always choose power. You can't deny it. You are me. Jake dropped his shotgun. No, he said. I am not you. He stepped forward, unarmed. I choose to protect, not conquer. The machine Jake raised a weapon. And then, stopped. It faded away. The world turned blue. And Jake opened his eyes. He stood back in the council chamber. Alive. The council was silent. Then the elder spoke. He passed. Earth will live. Jake let out a breath so deep it could have powered a windmill. But before they could celebrate, a voice crackled through the chamber. Signal detected. Unauthorized pulse. Hunter beacon activated. Everyone turned. The child's eyes widened. No. No, it can't be. Jake turned to him. What is it? The child's hands shook. The hybrid soldiers on Earth. They activated the core. A red light blinked in the sky. The beacon was live. And across the stars. Something ancient began to move. The true hunters. The ones even the machines feared. They were coming. Jake looked to the council. Well, folks, I hope you have a plan B. Asterisk War Games. The stars burned red. From a hidden corner of space, ancient ships awakened, shaped like claws, gliding like sharks. The true hunters had heard the signal. They weren't coming to visit. They were coming to clean up. Earth. 12 hours later, panic spread fast. Sky over New York, ripped open by a glitching rift. Mountains in Asia, vibrating, cracking, something, burrowing. The oceans, gone quiet. Too quiet. Jake stood at the edge of a cliff in Nevada, staring at the sky. Alien ships shimmered in orbit, hidden by cloaking tech, but he could feel them. The child stood beside him, no longer afraid, but still holding something back. You okay, kid? Jake asked, loading shells into an alien-modified shotgun. The child hesitated. There's something you should know. Jake raised an eyebrow. Oh, let me guess. You're secretly a weapon, or a prince, or... The child looked at him. His skin began to change. Light poured from his veins. He floated 6 inches off the ground. Jake took a step back. Well, that's new. The child wasn't just any alien. He was part of a last resort plan by the Council of Lyra. A living key, created to access the Ark. What's the Ark? Jake asked. The child replied, voice deeper, echoing, a vault, a weapon, a message. All in one. The Ark wasn't on Earth. It was Earth. Or rather, inside it, buried so deep Even humanity's deepest machines never found it. If activated, the Ark would either protect the planet or wipe the board clean. Meanwhile, across the planet, chaos spread. Military bases fell silent. Hybrid soldiers, half human, half hunter, turned on their creators. Even satellites stopped responding. The hunters were jamming all signals. Global leaders, offline. Global hope, fading. Jake was done waiting. We need fighters, tech, a base. The child nodded. There is one place. Hidden site Bravo. Greenland covered in ice, invisible from above, was a forgotten black site. It was meant to study the original Hunter wreck. It became something else, a fusion lab, a prototype factory, and now a war room. Inside, old scientists, rogue AI programmers, and one very sarcastic janitor worked in silence, until Jake walked in. I hope someone here knows how to make alien weapons run on diesel, he said, tossing a piece of melted tech on a table. The janitor saluted with a mop. Welcome to Bravo, sir. The countdown began. Jake and the child formed a plan. No armies, no governments. Just small resistance teams. Old school humans, rebel soldiers, ex-hackers, farmers, even gamers with drone skills, trained to use scavenged hunter tech. The goal? Defend the Ark core, keep the hunters out, buy time to activate the planetary shield. Oh yeah, and don't die. 48 hours later, the battle begins. Sky split open. Hunter motherships descended like falling gods. Their hulls were made of moving steel, screaming faces, weapon eyes, and living walls. Drones poured out like bees. Jake stood on the front line, shotgun in one hand, alien sword in the other. Behind him, a ragtag team of rebels in patched-up armor, some wearing football helmets for luck. Remember, he yelled, if it moves and glows red, shoot it. A massive hunter drone landed, 3 stories tall, multi-limbed, whirring. Like a blender from hell. Jake smirked. All right, big guy, let's dance. The battle was chaos. Lasers flew, EMP blasts shook the ground. Humans used trickery, speed, and sheer will. Hunter machines adapted fast, learning tactics mid-fight. And then, they found the Ark core. Buried beneath a mountain. The child raced. There, guarded by Jake and a few elite fighters. Inside the chamber, the walls glowed with ancient patterns. A heart-shaped crystal floated in the center, pulsing. This is it, the child said. If I bond with it, I might not survive. Jake stepped forward. Then don't. But the child smiled. You saved me. Now I save you. He touched the crystal. Light exploded. The ground cracked. The Ark awoke. Suddenly, every hunter drone stopped. Glitched. Some screamed. Some exploded. In the sky, the hunter mothership turned toward the planet and sent one final, massive beam of red light. One last chance to destroy Earth. Jake looked up. Looked down. At a button on the Ark's control panel. Manual override. He pressed it, and everything went white. Asterisk return, and a warning silence. That's how it ended. No explosion. No dramatic scream. Just silence. The hunters were gone. Destroyed. Disconnected. Deleted. The Ark's light had surged across the planet like a wave, shutting down every hostile signal, melting every hybrid circuit, turning ships into drifting space junk. The war was over. At least, that's what they thought. Jake woke up 3 days later, face down in a grassy field. The sky was blue. Max was licking his face like nothing ever happened. Okay, boy, I'm alive. You win, Jake grunted, sitting up. Was back on his farm. Same old barn. Same old shed. But the world? It would never be the same. He stood up and saw something strange. A small tree, glowing faintly, had grown in the center of his cornfield. with a child had vanished. The ark's energy had left a seed. Jake walked over, touched its leaves, and memories flooded in. The child's voice, his laughter, his final words before he fused with the ark. Tell them, protect each other. That's the only way forward. Jake looked up at the sky. Rest easy, kid. Asterisk, but peace didn't last long. Soon, rumors spread. Strange machines. Found in the oceans. Missing soldiers, reappearing with black veins. Satellites picking up signals from deep space. Signals no one understood. Jake was pulled back in. The Council of Lyra contacted him one last time. The elder being appeared in his barn, glowing with solemn light. The ark stopped the first wave, but the signal went further than we feared. Jake's jaw tightened. You mean there's more out there? The being nodded. The hunters were not the creators, only the collectors. Jake went still. Then who made them? The being didn't answer. Simply said, prepare. Governments tried to deny it. Scientists tried to explain it. People returned to normal, as humans do. But not Jake. Jake rebuilt the farm, yes. But beneath it, he built something else. A vault. A lab. A training ground. He trained people. Taught them. Prepared them. Not soldiers. Guardians. People who remembered. People who knew. 1 year later, on a quiet night, Max barked again. Jake stepped out of his house, and there it was. In the sky. Single black ... moving. Watching ... waiting ... Jake narrowed his eyes. Well, he muttered. Here we go again. He walked back inside ... grabbed his coat, and pinned something to his chest. A badge ... with 3 simple letters. HFY Humanity ... Fights ... Yes.